The death toll from the earthquake that's devastated Turkey and Syria has surpassed 12,000 as rescuers desperately search for survivors. The worst predictions about the earthquake that shook Syria and Turkey on Monday morning have been confirmed. The death toll in the two countries has surpassed 12,000, according to the latest official figures. The UN believes the final numbers may exceed 20,000. Rescue teams from around the world continue searching for survivors. The first 72 hours are crucial and every minute counts. The fact that rescuers in Nurdagi know well. The town was completely destroyed. Serhan has arrived at the place where his grandparents and cousins used to live.
All of them under the buildings still. We don't any hope, but we are just waiting our body, dead body.
After 3 days on the street, Samet also doesn't believe he will ever see his aunt and cousin again.
Aunt of my cousin are still under the buildings, and we don't have hope because, you know, if we could find them last night, okay, there were some hope, but now because the weather is too cold.
The flow of excavators and heavy vehicles is constant.
Изключително опасно е движението в града по всичките улици в момента.
These women and children have been living on the streets since Monday morning. All they have are a few blankets. They're lighting a fire to keep warm. Each one of them has found out that they've lost someone from their family. All they have left is that they are still alive and still healthy. There's some glimmers of hope amid mountains of grief in Turkey. Several young children have been rescued in the past hours in Kahramanmaraş, one of the cities most affected by Monday's earthquake. 43 hours after it hit, 3-year-old Arif Khan was pulled from the rubble, a moment captured live by television cameras. He was taken to a hospital with his father, who'd been rescued earlier. In the same city, 1.5-year-old Masal was rescued. Her parents had both been extracted earlier, but she'd been trapped alone in the 3-story building for 56 hours, stuck behind destroyed walls. Masal was taken to an ambulance, where she was reunited with her father. Also spending more than 2 days under the rubble were several children and teenagers who've been rescued from a collapsed building in the city of Hatay. These and other rescues fuel hope for a grieving country with thousands of homes destroyed and an uncertain number of people still trapped inside. Dutch prosecutors say they have strong indications that Russian President Vladimir Putin decided to supply the missile that downed flight MH17 in 2014. All 298 people on board the plane died when the aircraft was hit by a Russian-made missile over Ukraine. But they say they're suspending their work as they've exhausted all leads and cannot continue with any more criminal proceedings.
There are strong indications that a decision was made at presidential level by President Putin to supply the DPR with the Buktalar or, in any event, a heavier air defense system.
The investigating team had been hoping to identify those responsible for the incident, but have now admitted that this will not be possible. While there's no evidence that Putin himself ordered the aircraft to be shot down, they say in any case he enjoys immunity from prosecution while he's president of Russia. The announcement comes nearly 3 months after a Dutch court convicted 2 Russians and a Ukrainian for their roles in shooting down the plane. They were tried in absentia, and it's unclear whether they will ever serve their sentences. Russia has denied any involvement in the incident. A hero's welcome in the British Parliament for the Ukrainian president. Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to the UK was only his second trip abroad since Russia's invasion of his country. He thanked Britain and the West for its military support, but urged Ukraine's allies to go one step further.
I trust this symbol will help us for our next coalition of the plains, and I appeal to you and the world with simple and yet most important words: combat aircrafts for Ukraine, wings for freedom.
In an earlier meeting with Rishi Sunak, Zelensky received some welcome news about Western warplanes, when the British Prime Minister announced Ukrainian pilots would at least get training on NATO-type aircraft. Zelensky's flying visit to the UK also included an audience with King Charles, a potent gesture of solidarity from one head of state to another. From the outset of the war, Britain has been one of Ukraine's strongest supporters.
Fighting has intensified along the front line in eastern Ukraine. And in the recaptured city of Liman, there is a sense of unease because of talk of a new Russian offensive that could take place over the next couple of days.
Жизнь, конечно, очень тяжелая, потому что работы нет. Работы нет, понимаете, как на нервах, все в стрессе, все люди нервные.
The last 24 hours were the deadliest of the war for Russian troops, according to Ukraine, with more than 1,000 dead. But the figure is hard to verify. Meanwhile, Moscow is warning that promised Western weapons deliveries to Ukraine could escalate the conflict.
Соединенные Штаты Америки и их союзники пытаются максимально затянуть конфликт. Для этого они приступили к поставкам тяжелого наступательного вооружения. Открыто призывают Украину захватывать наши территории. Фактически такие шаги втягивают страны НАТО в конфликт и могут привести к непредсказуемому уровню его эскалации.
The latest top-level visit to Kyiv has been that of German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius. Berlin has announced that Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark will supply Ukraine with up to 178 older-generation Leopard 1 tanks to help Kyiv defend itself. These extra tanks, which were decommissioned by the German military 2 decades ago, will need to be modernized. En route from Spain are 20 M113 armored personnel carriers. They are being sent via cargo ship from Bilbao to a NATO base in Estonia and then delivered to the Ukrainian border.
Europe could be moments away from a seismic shift in its migration policy at this week's EU Leaders Summit in Brussels. Back in 2015, more than 1 million Syrian refugees arrived in Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel famously told her fellow Germans, "Wir schaffen das. We will manage it."
Und wir glauben, das können wir schaffen.
But now in 2023, the mood in Europe has changed. Austria is asking for EU money to fund a border fence between Bulgaria and Turkey. And the Italian government is restricting the work of NGOs rescuing migrants at sea. Last year, in both Italy and Sweden, governments with strong anti-migration policies came to power. And Europe's biggest political family, the European People's Party, also began toughening its rhetoric on migration. Party boss Manfred Weber told Euronews that the EU is sleepwalking into a big crisis. Border fences should not be a taboo topic anymore.
And let's be realistic. In Ceuta, Melilla, we have these decades in the African-Spanish border. We have it on the Greek-Turkish, on the Bulgarian-Turkish border, and after the attacks from Lukashenko against Poland and Lithuania, we have the same developments there. So again, nobody wants to see this, but if it is needed, then we have to do it, and the European Commission should be ready also to finance this.
So far, the European Commission is refusing to cough up the funds, but it's offering help to set up other infrastructure for surveillance. In the meantime, the EU is making fresh efforts to find an agreement on the new pact on migration. That would include mandatory migrant relocations from Italy and Greece to other countries, something that remains a red line for Eastern European member states. But in the European Parliament, many criticise the inhumane approach. And for some, the idea of border fences brings back bad memories.
Ich bin eine ostdeutsche Abgeordnete. Wir haben, und ich habe meine ganze Jugend hinter einer Mauer, hinter Zäunen gelebt. Und wenn wir jetzt anfangen, Zäune durch die EU wieder zu finanzieren, ist das nicht nur für mich ein Déjà-vu, sondern es ist ein Zurück in ein Europa, das wir alle nicht wollen.
EU leaders will also discuss economic issues and the war in Ukraine during Thursday's summit.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov arriving in Mali on Tuesday. During his visit, he said Moscow will continue to help Bamako improve its military capabilities. Mali wants Russia's help to battle an Islamist insurgency that remains entrenched despite years of fighting.
Признательны малийским друзьям за поддержку российских инициатив по многим вопросам, которые стоят на повестке дня Всемирной организации, которые обретают все большую актуальность, имея в виду и недопустимость героизации нацизма, недопустимость начала гонки вооружений в космическом пространстве, необходимость отказаться от размещения оружия в космосе.
His visit comes amid concerns about alleged human rights abuses committed by mercenaries with the Wagner Group.
Касается каких-то экспертов ООН, которые некие изыскания делают о якобы имевших место военных преступлениях частной военной компании «Вагнер», мне неизвестно о каких-либо экспертах ООН, которые были бы наделены полномочиями рассматривать какие-либо аспекты военных преступлений, кем бы они ни совершались.
In what is his third trip to Africa since July, Lavrov then left for Mauritania, after which he will travel to Sudan.